Welcome to the Challenging the Way We Age podcast, hosted by the Mavericks of Senior Living, Francis and Catherine, focusing on creativity, ingenuity, and inspiration to educate and inspire changes in the senior experience, breaking the status quo. We want to thank our supporters, Assured Assisted Living, Serenity App, Sevens Home Care, and Sevens Residential Memory Care. Now get ready for the next episode.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are at the Senior Living Transformation Summit in Boston, Massachusetts, and we are here with Janet Lillevold, Senior Vice President of the Transformation Office, which is really cool, of New Perspective Senior Living. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us.
Janet, it's great to have you, and I love the name Transformation.
Yeah.
I really, truly love that title. It's refreshing to hear something different.
It is very different, and we often get questions about it, but it's really all about change management and moving the business forward.
Very cool. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the aging services and in your role today?
Absolutely. So I actually stumbled into this only a few years ago, about 3 years ago, so pretty new to the industry. And I was consulting for several different businesses, including New Perspective, on a project. And they offered me the position. But I think what really predisposed me to it was several factors. So one was probably 10, 15 years ago, I was doing pet therapy work in nursing homes, assisted living, memory care, dementia, and then hospice over a period of about 12 years.
Wow.
And so really enjoyed that. And then unfortunately, in the last 10 years, both my mother and my mother-in-law were diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and as we say, had their celestial discharges while in memory care. So I really get it from the family side. So while I was working on this project for New Perspective, I got to know the team there, their passion for putting residents first and enabling them to live life on purpose every day. And so when they offered me the position, I took it.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. And I love kind of how you had the pet therapy. You were exposed to a lot of different wonderful, creative ways to engage. And I'm guessing that probably had a big impact onto this transformation role. Can you kind of talk a little bit how the transformation office, where that came from?
Sure. So our president and our CEO actually coined the title Transformation Office. But in my past, in the last 15, 20 years, my role in different businesses has been to transform or grow, develop, rebuild departments and then whole companies.
Wow.
And so that's my forte, it's my passion. I love it. And when I talked with Chris and Ryan at New Perspective, and they coined this transformation office phrase, and they put it simply as we need to basically set the company on a course where we can grow in the right way and scale, and also with the change management, bring the people along.
Love to hear that. So your background is really organizational change management. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So we're finding this theme quite a lot at this conference, that people from other industries outside the industry of senior care are bringing their expertise, things that we've maybe already solved or we have processes for solving in other industries into senior care. And it seems to be working quite well. But that's really I would say the Mavericks, the trailblazers in senior care, are bringing a lot of outside expertise in. And I love to see that. So tell us a little bit about the Transformation Office. What do you do?
So basically, I work with all of the different departments in their development and rolling out of new programs, whether it's a clinical system or a culinary system or a process change or new security plans or resident engagement tools. So we really work from the very front end, from the research and analysis part, all the way through the piloting, the deployment, the measuring, the handoff back to the business, the training. So really working in collaboration with them and helping enable that.
So selecting new technologies, finding new technologies, and how do you go about doing that?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of them, right?
There are. So the first thing is really starting with the business need. So understanding the business need from all levels. So not just the strategic, the executive level, but the district level, the community level, the frontline team member level. So understanding those business needs and understanding scalability, expense, application, training, all the different parts, and then working with different vendors to decide which ones we're going to go forward. And of course, with putting the business needs together, it's not just my brain. That would be really bad if it was. It's really pulling together from those who are going to use the system what those requirements are. So if it's a procurement system, talking with those who order the supplies, whether they're clinical or culinary or office, talking with those in finance on how they set it up and how it gets priced, and other folks. So pulling together all of their requirements and then looking for the right solution.
So do you have a team?
I do. I have a team. Right now, it's just a team of the technology folks. And when I say just the technology, it means those who support the technology, support the users, and then also do the IT project management. And then I focus on the change management and working with the different groups. We'll continue to expand as we grow.
Great.
So it sounds like you're getting buy-in from a bunch of different perspectives. How is that going? I mean, has that been helpful, hindrance? How does that kind of play into it?
Oh, it's absolutely necessary. And so when the buy-in is really about listening, listening to the needs and the demands, and not just listening to those who want to go forward, but listening to those who challenge you, the resistors, because they give you the 360 view. And that's what you absolutely need. So it goes really well. I mean, there are times when, you sit down and you have opposing views and you have to work through those, but then you get to the better solution.
I loved that when I heard you say that on stage. Bring in your resistors. You need to hear their voice. And I think that's so often overlooked.
Well, because I think, too, when you have challenging perspectives, that's where you really get a fantastic outcome, because you're able to look at the whole picture, not just what you think is right, but really challenge each other to solve and create a better system solution. Because if you think you're the only person in the room that can solve that, probably not the best way to start.
Absolutely. And even if you look at the first system that we put into place after I joined, it was a procurement system. I know nothing about procurement. I've never touched a procurement system in my life. There was no way that I could select something like that. Right. So bringing in all those folks who are going to touch it daily to understand and to figure out what we need, but then overlay what we need from a business strategy on top of that. That's how it works.
That's cool. So how does training come into play with this system and these, you're bringing on new technologies? How does training, do you look at training as part of the transformation office?
Training, making sure that we have training as part of the transformation office.
Okay.
Training as itself is only part of the transformation and technology area if it's about a specific technology, like how to use a cell phone or a laptop that we deploy. But what we do is it's not a one and done. So when you roll something out, yes, we train everybody, so 2,500 team members potentially at once on that technology. Well, the next day there's new team members, and then there's new team members, right? So we do, like most others in the industry, we have a labor force challenge and turnover, and we work to reduce that. So what it is understanding what training needs to happen, what methods, what's the best approach, whether it's video or interactive or reading, or if it's in our LMS, our learning management system, and then working on deploying that, and then coaching and mentoring. And we're, like many, we're building a lot of the things as we go, as we optimize the technologies. But you have to continue to do it over and over and over again.
And does that fall into then, do you guys do, I'm assuming, refresher trainings quarterly, things like that as well too on this, or is that a separate area?
We are working on that. So we are currently doing some refresher training in some of our areas, like in our point of care area right now. But it is something that we're actually mapping out as to what our strategy is and what we'll be doing going forward.
Very cool.
And then, so you have you've selected solutions, you've rolled them out, you've done the training, then what?
Then it's really about optimizing and making sure that what we've rolled out is meeting our needs. So it's about metrics, but it's also about listening. So you have numbers and you have things what your goals are, and your goals may change. At the beginning of a rollout, it may be very low level metrics, it's just adoption. And then later it's truly metrics on maybe expense reduction, revenue growth, resident use of the technology and hours or types of applications and topics. And then it's looking at listening. So what isn't working? What is working? Add more of that. What isn't working? Try to figure out if it's a training issue, if it's a technology issue, or if it's something we should just stop doing, that part.
That makes sense. So we hear this a lot, outside of senior living, like the champion, right? The champion of the project. Do you guys, do you have a champion of each kind of new rollout, or how does that work? Finding that kind of lead person to really help back this new idea?
Well, that is exactly right, and we do have champions first in the identification of the technology or the application,
Okay.
and then what we look for is both champions and subject matter experts with regard to the application. Do we have them in every single one of them right now? No, but that's our goal.
Okay.
And there's a difference. You can have a subject matter expert who's really gifted at understanding it, the pieces and parts, but maybe they're not as gifted at training on it or mentoring on it or communicating, being that champion voice. And so you may have that split across multiple individuals.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Well, it's so great, as Frances said earlier, to see a transformation office in senior care. Love it. And I think we're seeing more and more of those, but you guys are on the forefront.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So we are asking all of our guests, who in your life do you see as a maverick?
So So I'm going to say LaDonna Hoy. So who's LaDonna Hoy? She is an individual in the Minneapolis area that when she was in her 50s, so she was almost a senior by then, in her 50s, saw a need to support individuals who had trouble like paying their bills, getting food, making their grocery bills, making the rent, getting a car to go to work, getting appropriate housing, and decided to start what's called Interfaith Outreach Partners, which helps in all those areas and also in tutoring and other things for children and stuff like that in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. And so she started it 30 years ago. She's in her 80s now. She's still running it as the executive director.
Wow.
She's
So
just now
cool.
stepping down this year as they bring someone else in. But she truly, to me, embodies somebody who started it in the church basement and then expanded to significant nonprofit status that hits and delivers services to so many people who need it as temporary bridges to being self-sufficient. And she's just amazing. And you think about it at 80 some, I don't remember exactly at 80 what, she is a senior who's definitely living life on purpose and
That's
delivering
awesome.
back to others. So she to me is just a role model.
Unbelievable. And
That's
do you
great.
know her personally?
I do.
And do you tell her that you think she's a role model?
I do. She's a member of our church, and I've known her probably since I moved to Minnesota 20 years ago.
Wow, that's
That's a fabulous shout out. Yeah, wonderful.
and that reminds me, of not caring about her age, caring about her passion.
Yeah.
Her passion is, it sounds like helping and bridging and doing these amazing things, and it really goes to show you that age doesn't matter. It's your passion that matters. So that is, it's really inspiring, quite frankly. That's so awesome to hear that. It really is.
Yeah,
So
we'd love to speak with her.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that
Maybe we'll
story.
reach out and see if she wants to be on the podcast. What a wonderful story to share.
It's so
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah. So after our conversation today, what action would you like our listeners to take?
Well, I think, really think about, as you're selecting technology, 3 different areas. Think about your resident and how their lives will be improved, whether they use the technology or a team member uses the technology. Think about the team members, how they will be able to learn and use the technology and what that means to them. And then think about how it affects the business. Does it enable the business? Does it support the business? Technology for technology's sake is garbage. You have to have technology work for you.
Janet, what I really appreciate about what you just said was you flipped the model. You started with the resident. Let's look at how it's going to impact the resident, and then our frontline staff, and then our business, rather than how's it going to help our business? Oh, what does that mean for our frontline staff and then the resident? That's wonderful.
When it comes to this, how you're looking at it and the action for the listeners to take, do you see many challenges in this implementation, or even beginning to look at how you ask your residents for input?
The only challenges I see are that it takes time, and sometimes people want to go really fast. But you know what? Sometimes you have to slow down to go faster.
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, very well
Excellent
said.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think you're creating hope in senior care?
So I think by helping us look at that technology, none of us wants to pull up a rocking chair and just sit when we get older, right? So we're really looking at technology that will engage and keep individuals active. And so that's part of my role, is to think about that, to how do we make it a better experience that we allow seniors to live life on purpose every day.
Live life on purpose every day.
That is going to be a quote that I will not forget,
Yeah.
because I think too often we get this mindset that they're a resident. that's what their title is, but we forget that they may have doctors, lawyer, mothers, grandmothers, entrepreneurs, business owners. So they have outside purposes, and we have to do a better job of creating a purpose-driven environment, not just a here you go. And I love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's really wonderful.
That's great. So how can our listeners learn more about you, find you, stuff like that?
I think the best way is by email, so my email address at jlillevold@npseniorliving.com or through LinkedIn.
Okay, and we'll put all those in the show notes. We'll put links to New Perspective Senior Living as well too, so that you guys can learn more about new senior living, as well as Janet here. So Janet, I'm just amazed by the idea that you guys are really pushing that envelope on the transformation, really taking that to heart and seeing how you can impact the residents first, then your team members and the business. I mean, that is a very strong, way to look at it. And I think it's only going to yield great things for our older adults.
Yes, thanks for blazing trails. Keep being a maverick. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me on here.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.